So let's talk about Pete Hegseth. He's America's Secretary of War, and he has been an absolute lightning rod for controversy pretty much since day one. In this explainer, we're going to break down the serious allegations that have really defined his time in office, and we're basing all of this entirely on public reporting.
We're kicking things off with this quote from Congressman Gaubert Garcia because it just cuts right to the heart of what's being alleged here. You see, these aren't just minor policy disagreements. We're talking about accusations of deep, profound ethical and legal breaches right at the very top of our national security apparatus.
So, who is Pete Hegseth? Well, he's a former Army National Guard officer, a conservative media personality, and now he's the man tasked with leading the entire U.S. military. But his time in office, well, it's been defined by a relentless series of scandals. So we're going to walk through the key issues one by one, based completely on what's out there in the public record. All right, first up, we're going to start with the first major area of concern, this really troubling intersection of his wartime decision-making and some very serious allegations of personal enrichment.
Okay, so you really have to pay attention to the timing here. According to the Financial Times, just weeks before the U.S. launched strikes on Iran, Hegseth's broker over at Morgan Stanley apparently contacted BlackRock, and the ask? To make a multi-million-dollar investment in a defense fund. This request was reportedly so out of the ordinary that it immediately triggered an internal flag at the investment firm.
And you can bet that didn't go unnoticed on Capitol Hill. That alleged move prompted a really sharp response from lawmakers, including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Merkley. They basically argued that if this is true, it would be an absolutely appalling attempt to profit from knowing war plans in advance. Not just a potential violation of his ethics agreement, but a deep, deep betrayal of public trust. And the allegations don't just stop with financial stuff. They get even more serious, shifting from Wall Street to the battlefield itself. Reporting from the Washington Post detailed a U.S. strike on a boat down in the Caribbean. And according to that report, Hegseth gave a chilling verbal order: kill everybody. What's even worse, a second strike was then reportedly ordered, killing survivors who were just clinging to debris in the water. So why is an order to kill survivors so incredibly significant? Well, because as multiple legal experts have pointed out, that would be a potential war crime. It violates the most fundamental rules of armed conflict, and the fact that the administration's story on what happened has kept changing has only fueled this controversy. Now, you might think these are all just recent issues that popped up since he took office, but they don't exist in a vacuum. The reporting actually suggests a pattern of behavior that began long before he ever joined the cabinet. So let's just walk through this timeline for a second. Hegseth leads two very prominent veterans groups, but look at how his tenure ends. His departure from Concerned Veterans for America in 2016 was clouded by some really serious allegations, and that was followed just a year later by a sexual assault accusation that was ultimately settled confidentially. And when you dig into why he left CVA, a whistleblower report, which was detailed in The New Yorker and other places, laid out some truly explosive claims. We're talking allegations of financial mismanagement using nonprofit money for personal expenses, a hostile and sexist work environment, and some really disturbing personal misconduct, including one former employee who claimed to have witnessed Hegseth drunkenly chanting, "Kill all Muslims." Okay, so from his past to the present, this theme of questionable judgment just keeps coming up. And that brings us to one of the biggest national security scandals of his entire tenure, the mishandling of sensitive information. So get this, in March of 2025, reports come out that Hegseth used the messaging app Signal on a computer connected to an unsecured internet line, mind you, to discuss details of upcoming military strikes in Yemen. And to make matters so much worse, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, was accidentally included in one of these group chats. You just can't make this stuff up. And this is where it gets really crucial. Look at the stark difference between what Hegseth claimed and what actually leaked. He publicly insisted no classified information was shared, but the published chat logs, they included specific launch times for F-18s, MQ-9 drones, and Tomahawk missiles. He said no targets, no locations, but the leak included the exact times bombs were expected to hit their targets. So amid all of these scandals, you have to understand something else that's going on. Hegseth is on a radical mission to completely reshape the very institution he leads, and this really helps explain why he is such a polarizing figure. I mean, just listen to his opening line to his own senior military leaders. He apparently walked in and said, "Good morning and welcome to the War Department, because the Department of Defense is over."
By rebranding the department back to its original name, the War Department, Hegseth was signaling a huge, dramatic shift in focus, one that's all about lethality and preparing for conflict above everything else. And these are the concrete steps he's taking to make his vision a reality. He's pushing to restore what he calls a warrior ethos by changing fitness and grooming standards. He's aiming to eliminate what he describes as woke culture, complaining about an effeminate military. He's even cutting back on mandatory online training to get more time on the shooting range. You know, this isn't just tinkering around the edges. It's a complete, top-to-bottom cultural overhaul.
So, when you take a step back and you put it all together, it's pretty clear we're not talking about one or two isolated incidents or simple mistakes. The reporting reveals very distinct, reoccurring themes.
You can really break down all these controversies into four main pillars. You've got the financial allegations, the idea of profiting from war. You've got the serious national security breaches. You have this long, documented history of personal and professional misconduct. And finally, you have this raw use of power to push a radical ideological agenda at the Pentagon. So the crucial point here, the big takeaway, is the consistency. From his time leading nonprofits all the way to his current role as Secretary of War, these reports detail a pattern of behavior that raises some really fundamental questions about his judgment, his ethics, and his fitness for office. And all of that leaves us with a critical question to think about. Regardless of how any single investigation turns out, what is the impact on the U.S. military and on our national security when its top civilian leader is the source of such constant and profound controversy?